Okay, so we had David Edward Maust. He was born in Connellsville, Pennsylvania in 1954. His parents were George and Eva Maust. His father was orphaned as a kid, and his mother was diagnosed as psychotic and mentally ill. Maust was also put in a mental institute at the ripe young age of 9 by his mother. He was a danger to his siblings. He would set their things on fire. He would try to drown them. So, I mean, he was kind of whack from the start, I guess. The institute he was put in was mostly for kids with mentally ill parents that could not take care of their children. But obviously he was in there for other reasons, not because his parents couldn't take care of him. He felt as though he were dumped by his family, that they kind of just left him behind. While he was in the institution, he choked 2 of his friends. His brother remembers him beating a squirrel to death with a baseball bat. Maust had also been molested as a child after he left the institution, and he was put in a children's home at the age of 13. So, I mean, he had really already had a lot happen to him just in the first 13 years of his life. I mean, that's a lot to happen to a child. After finally getting away from the system after turning 18, he started working with his uncle for a construction company, but he later got fired for wrecking a company truck. After being fired, he tried to go back home to his mom, but she told him no. So he enlisted in the Army at 18 years old in 1971, where he was a chef in Germany. So some of his crimes were, while he was stationed in Germany, he killed his first victim, a 13-year-old boy named James McClister. He was convicted of manslaughter and was sentenced to 4 years in Fort Leavenworth prison. He requested that he not be put on parole, but they denied it and let him free in 1977. 2 years later, in 1979, he murdered his friend in his apartment while he was asleep. He was tried for attempted murder. In 1981, he decided he wanted to find the 13-year-old boy that molested him and kill him. That man, that 13-year-old boy, obviously was now a man, and he couldn't find him. So instead, he just killed a random boy. His name was Donald Jones. He killed him by drowning him. The crimes continued. That same year, he killed a 14-year-old boy by stabbing him to death. For that, he was sentenced to 5 years to prison. While Maust was in prison, he wrote in a diary. He wrote that he wished he never got out because he knew he would kill again if they let him out. While in jail in Texas in 1982, he was sent to Illinois for Jones' murder, but he was unfit to stand trial and was sent to another mental institution. After being in jail for 10 years, waiting trial, he pled guilty and got 35 years in prison. Although he was credited for the 12 years and would get off early with good behavior. He served 17 years altogether and got out in 1999. He wrote a 5-page paper requesting that he not be let out, but he was let out anyways. So in 2001, he continued some crimes. He hit an acquaintance in the back of the head 6 times with a metal pipe, but he wasn't charged because the man did not want to press charges. Lastly, on December 12, 2003, David Maust was arrested for the death of James Regany. Regany's body was found in the concrete of Maust's basement in Hammond, Indiana, along with 2 other boys, Michael Dennis, he was 13-year-old, and Nick James was 19. In November of 2005, Maust pled guilty and was sentenced to 3 life sentences. Only a few months later, in January of 2006, Maust hung himself with the sheet of his bed and died a day later at St. Anthony Medical Center. Authorities found a suicide note that admitted to 5 killings, including the ones in Hammond, Indiana. He was 51 years old when he died. And that is all. Thanks for watching.